think the baseball winter meetings are like December 13th or something like that. I think that's when
Yeah.
we get our Soto thing to drop. So I'm like, that's too close with the main event thing. I want to get my picks out before that. So I've asked Nick to make his picks with me, and these are kind of my order of the top 30 based on talent, but also qualifying offers kind of had to be a thing here. So we're going to start number 1, Juan Soto, generational talent. Soto is going to be 26, was traded to the Yankees, had a great year. I have him going to the Mets. What say you?
I have him going to the Mets too.
Okay. I just think
I think Uncle Steve is gonna throw the money at him. Just go all in.
I know the Yankees are going to put forth a lot of money, but I think there is going to come to that puke point where they're like, you know what? Maybe we better just, go get somebody else and get another pitcher, and we need to add some
I mean,
bullpen
they could get
guys.
so many other. The Yankees could go get so many other pieces too.
Yeah.
Like Juan Soto's great to have, but like with like Soto's probably gonna be 600 million. Like you could easily go get like 3 other players for
Yeah.
maybe like 5 or 6 years, like 120 mil per year. Like you can easily go get some other small pieces to your puzzle.
And he's not he's one of those players too where like he's actually won a championship before, so like he might not lean as heavily as like, oh, they're better contenders. Like, no, I think he wants to get paid and he wants like to live comfortably somewhere.
Yeah,
So
I think that's why I think the Mets too, because I mean the Yankees were so close, but they really choked it in the World Series, and maybe Juan Soto sees that, and I hope he sees that because I hate the Yankees. Um, so hopefully he goes to the Mets. Hopefully he gets his bag, and I mean regardless where he goes, I think he gets the bag.
I think he gets like a 12-year contract and makes like on an average salary of like 43 mil a year. That's kind of where I'm
Yeah,
sticking at. I think that's
that's
like
what
I can't. I'm not. My math's probably off, but I want to say it's like 515 million or something, which is super super high. But he's worth it. He's basically the Ted Williams of our generation. So
definitely, yeah.
all right, my number 2 is Corbin Burns. I want you to go first on this one. Who are you feeling in?
I got Corbin Burns going back to the Orioles. I think to lead that young rotation that they have over there, I think he needs to be the one at the top. And he's just so good. Why would you not want to re-sign Corbin Burns? So I think he goes back to the Orioles to like kind of teach the up and comers like Grayson Rodriguez, Kyle Bradish, just to like how to like conduct yourself on the mound because he's such a veteran too. Like I think he goes there. I think he resigns.
I think the one benefit they have too is that they got him in time enough to give him a qualifying offer.
Mm-hmm.
So while that might scare away certain teams from offering or whatever, but for as much as the Red Sox were like we're going full throttle last year, then didn't do anything, I actually kind of believe that they are pushing chips into the table this year. So I got him going to the Red Sox. He's familiar with that division now that he's been in the Orioles. I think they'll pay him more than the O's, where
Probably yes.
like the O's made a trade for him and they gave up some prospects and they have a ton of talent still in their system, specifically position players that I think they're more likely to maybe make a trade with. And actually, this is off the top of my head. I would love to see an Orioles trade with the Mariners. Get one of those young pitchers over there in Baltimore. Still got some team control. And the Mariners desperately need hitters, and that's like all that the Orioles have right now. So somehow a trade there would make a ton of sense.
Yeah, I would like that too.
But I have Burns going to the Red Sox. They have a good group of pitching, but like Burns is one of those like durable, polished. He's the ace of your staff, and putting him up at number 1 and bumping everyone down a slot just makes them way more competitive. So I got him with the Red Sox.
That I like that.
Okay, now I put Roki Sasaki at number 3, but I have to, and this might mess up your pick, but I feel like I have to explain some stuff here. Because of his age and his experience in the KBO League, I think that's the one he's in.
Yeah, he's in the KBO.
You basically are only considered a free agent if you're 25 or you've played, I think, 6 or 7 seasons in that league. So he's not considered a free agent. He's not allowed to sign for the buku bucks that Yamamoto just got. Okay?
Yeah.
So international spending has a limit, and it also has a time slot. So the window ends, I think it's December 15th, and then it reopens like January 15th. Now, the money has already been spent for this year, so if you are willing to throw a bunch of money at Sasaki and you're willing to spend a large portion of your international signing, which I think you should, you're going to have to wait until at least January 15th before you can make a legit offer. And this is the way I understand it. If you sign a major free agent, especially one that's like a qualifier or it's considered like the top 5% or whatever, where you get your comp picks, you lose money in your international budget. So if the Mets sign Soto and you're the Mets, not only do you lose your draft pick compensation for him, you also lose a portion of your international spending budget. So that knocks you down. Like, I think there's like 4 tiers of what it was of like, all right, these teams can spend this much, these teams can spend this much, tier 3 this much, tier 4 this much. If you buy somebody like Soto, your international spending goes from like tier 1 down to like tier 4.
Yeah.
So the way that I understand it, because everyone's like, oh, he's going to the Dodgers. Well, I have the Dodgers signing some big free agents, so their budget's not going to be the highest. Now, you could say, and again, this is another angle you could look at it. Okay, well, he's not going to get paid a lot. Well, then he's got to rely on a big market to get endorsements. I agree with you. He does, and that's how he's going to get the majority of his money, probably. But why would it be smart to go to LA where you're then competing with Ohtani sponsorships and you're also competing with Yamamoto sponsorships? So while everyone keeps saying he's going to the Dodgers, it makes so much sense. I'm sitting here like, it doesn't make sense if you actually know the rules. So I don't have him going to the Dodgers. I have him going to the Cubs. Because I don't think they're going to be top of the market buyers. They're not going to lose their international budget. They also have one of the top farm systems, if not the top farm systems. I think they had like 6 top 100 prospects, and they're all like AA and higher at this point. The main thing that they need is pitching. So why not spend majority of their international budget on him, lock him up, and then the Cubs would have such a team to build around too with all those young prospects and guys under like control. So that's where I got him going to, the Cubs. Who you got him going to? Please don't say the Dodgers.
No, I didn't have him going to the Dodgers. I thought about this for a while. I thought maybe 2 teams, maybe he goes to the Yankees, or maybe he would go to the Diamondbacks because I know they're going to want to rebuild their team, especially after going so far in the postseason recently. I honestly think I would actually really love him to go to the Diamondbacks because he would be 100% their number 1 starter. He'd be the guy they always look to, and I think he would probably bring them back to title contention.
Diamondbacks were kind of on my short list as well. And 1, I think they're a pretty good organization. 2, they have starting pitching, so they wouldn't have to like rush him. Like Ohtani came over and then went to like, I don't know, AA or something. Like his first day wasn't in the big leagues. Like he was considered, or at least I don't think he was. I think he was in the minors for a little bit and then they called him up. So like, you know, one it's like, I don't think people realize like how big of a culture difference it is. And it's so much easier to adapt and feel comfortable if you start them off in the minors for a little bit. Even if the talent's ready, like just all right, let's learn dollar help. Like you know, you can have somebody be their assistant or whatever, but it's still like, okay, well, where do I go to get my laundry done? What food's good for me and what's not? Like, you know, learning dollars and stuff like that, like how different cultures, stuff like that. Like it's huge. It's such a shock. Yeah,
it really is.
And then you want to add on like playing in the pros? Like, no. So if he went to the Diamondbacks, he wouldn't have to be in their rotation right away. Like they already got some, you know, good rotation there to begin with. And it's also kind of on that West Coast, so that's like better for the Japanese market. So his sponsorships would probably be there as well. Like if Seattle didn't have such like a good starting rotation, and also like I feel like their owners are kind of been known to be more thrifty. I'd say Seattle was probably the best fit, but because of the ownership, I just don't think. But yeah, I wouldn't. I know Yankees are another one just because of the money stuff like that. But I think if I'm not saying I'm not ruling it out, but I feel like if the Yankees were the ones that ended up signing him, it's because they struck out on Soto. It's because they struck out on Santander and some other players too. So
yeah, definitely.
It'd be like their third priority.
I'd rather see him sign with the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, same. Number 4 was Blake Snell, but we actually
You know
had
what happened?
yeah, Blake Snell ended up signing with the Dodgers, which I mean, good for him. I know a lot of people are hating on it because they're just like Dodgers did it again. The league's not fair, whatever. But I think Snell ended up signing like a 5-year, like 182 or something. I'm just like, good for him.
Yeah, it was 5 years.
Good for him. He's been kind of struggling to get that long-term contract for the last couple of years, and I mean, getting into camp late is always tough. So I'm just happy that he finally got his long-term deal. And honestly,
Yeah.
going to the Dodgers is probably a pretty good fit for him because I mean, like whether this is egg on my face or not, their playoff run, the whole thing I kept saying was they don't have no starting pitching. They're not healthy enough. They don't have pitchers. And they somehow plugged it together and made it work, but throw Snell in there. Man, that's a nice
It just adds more depth.
it adds more depth. He's a solid talent. Like I don't know where they want to slot him in, but it makes all the sense for him to go there. So good for them.
100%.
Number 5 guy is Alex Bregman, who does have a qualifying offer. He's going to be playing at age 31. Who do you got, Nick?
I have him either going to re-sign with the Astros or going to the Braves to be their third baseman.
You have him. Alex Riley's there. Sign long term.
I think Alex Riley could probably move to the DH spot.
Well, if he
I
moves,
think Alex Bregman would be a better fit at third base.
well, the Braves re-signed Ozuna, and he's basically their everyday DH. So that'd be a roster crunch there.
Mm.
But I have him going.
I feel like they'd make it work.
Knowing the Braves, somebody would probably get hurt, and it would probably work out. And I know I just saw a report, I think yesterday, that actually had said like, hey, he was willing to move to second base as well if the team needed it, which provides.
I mean, I know he's played shortstop before too.
Yeah, he was a shortstop in college, and basically got blocked there because they had Correa at the time. But like, I mean, at this point in his age, I mean, he's basically in his prime. He could play short if they wanted to, but as he gets older, he'd probably have to move to second or third anyway. So
I think second would be good.
second, he'd be fine. I think at this point, I just want to keep him at third base, but I have him going to the Phillies. One of the things that I heard during the GM meetings, the rumors or whatever, was that the Phillies were looking to upgrade there, and that Alec Baum was on the trade block.
Yep.
So I could see him getting moved first, because if you sign Bregman and all the teams know, like, oh, well, you're just trying to get rid of him, and I think he's like either arbitration 2 or arbitration 3, so he's going to be getting paid at least a couple million. I mean, he's a nice player. I don't think he ever lived up to his prospect profile or whatever, but Phillies.
No, he's solid enough.
Yeah,
he's solid enough to be like having your everyday lineup, who could maybe match like 20 to 30 homers a season.
Yeah, so Baum gets moved. Phillies signed Bregman. Other thing that I also like about that was one they have Dombrowski, super aggressive GM, always looking to upgrade, not afraid to spend money. Owner's cool with it too. Real Muto is actually, I believe, in the last year of his deal. I mean, he's aging catcher. I don't know if they really, I still a big fan of his, but I think his framing or whatever, his defense actually slipped last year. So it's like JT might not get brought back after this year if they can't come to terms on some type of dollar value. So they're gonna want to have another righty kind of locked up to, slide in between the Harpers and the Schwarbers and stuff like that,
Yeah.
whether it's him hitting in the 2 spot or in the 4 spot. So I think it makes a ton of sense for him to go to the Phillies.
I like that too, yeah, because I've heard a lot of rumors about Alec Boehm too, getting shipped off.
Mm-hmm. And then for the Astros too, like I know they want to retain him, but they do have kind of money locked up with their extensions and stuff like that. And they did offer a qualifying offer, so they would at least get some draft picks for compensation.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on. Then we have Max Fried. He's going to be playing at age 31. Braves are known to offer their guys, extensions that are more team friendly. Fried they never came to terms with one. I mean, he's 31. He's in his prime. He's kind of, I like Burns a lot better because he's more durable. But I mean, like, Fried's kind of right there too. And with Snell off the board and set the market for him, I actually have a little bit of a shocker here. So I want you to make your pick first.
I thought originally that maybe if Corbin Burns doesn't re-sign with the Orioles, maybe the Orioles replace him with Max Fried, which actually would be pretty nice too, because he's been pretty solid over the past couple of years. And he's got lots of postseason experience as well, which is something that the Orioles would definitely need.
Mm-hmm.
But I originally had him re-signing with the Braves, but now that I think about it, I like him with the Orioles.
I actually really like that too. Like the Orioles, they're a young team, So I mean, like Burns isn't old either. Burns would be 30, so like they both make sense because they're long. Like they can offer them 5, 6, 7 year deals, and they're still going to be, their prime window, I guess I should say, is longer than if you were to sign like Evaldi. Like he's 35, so he's only got like 1 or 2 years left probably. So if the O's somehow take a step back, we have some sophomore slumps or whatever. Like you have a longer window with these period if you sign these guys because they're in their prime and they're still going to be solid. So I like that to the O's a lot. My shocker team that I actually picked is the Nationals. And I'll tell you why. Because they've kind of been out of it and been quietly developing players and like signing like bounce back guys and trading them off for pieces. And they've kind of developed like a nice little team there. Like I almost wish they would have kept Lane Thomas, but
Yeah, that was kind of a shocker for me.
they have a nice core of young players that have like they're not all going to be rookies next year, but like they've kind of played there, they've shown some success or shown some good strides, and their GM, I think it's Rizzo, I think it's
Yeah, it's
Mike
Rizzo.
Mike Rizzo, I can't remember his first
Yeah,
name.
Mike Rizzo.
I like him a lot as a GM, and he actually I think it said like one of those post pressers like, hey, we have our young controllable guys we believe in moving forward. It's time to spend now, and with the all the money that was coming off the books and everything, dude, the Nationals have like the second or third lowest payroll as of like right now. Because
That's not surprising to me.
I mean, it's not surprising because I mean, basically their only bad contract they had was Corbin, and since he's now off the books, they really don't have any bad contracts. And with him saying like, "Hey, we're now looking to spend," I think they're going to be one of those like when you hear like, "Oh, Soto, Braves, Dodgers, whatever are interested in. You hear those big markets. I think the Nationals are going to be one of those teams where it's like there's a surprise team that nobody's talked about, and the Nationals are going to be that team for a lot of these players.
Okay.
And for this situation, like I said, Fried's only going to be age 31, so he's still got a solid 4 or 5 years in his prime probably, where he can take those younger pitchers that are coming under his wing, show him the ropes, show him how to adjust, do what he's got to do. It just makes so much sense for him to go to the Nationals. But it just comes down to, the one variable of all this is the human element of like maybe he doesn't like pitching in the NL East, maybe he doesn't like Washington, like who knows? But I'm going Fried to the Nationals.
I'd like that too. Like, yeah, like they do have a really nice young core: Dylan Cruz, James Wood, C.J. Abrams.
And I think
See
I
that?
guess spoiler, I also think they take a chance at a couple bounce back or like aging veterans later to kind of round out that offense as well. Like they had
Yeah, I do.
Kyber Ruiz is their catcher. I think it's Luis Garcia Jr. He came up really young. I think he's still only like 24, 25, like, and he's been in the big leagues for like 3 years now.
Yeah, he's the one at second base, isn't it? The Luis
Yeah,
Garcia.
so it's like if they get upgrades in their corner at first and third, and then like you put Fried at the top, knock everyone down a peg, add a couple of pieces to their bullpen because they non-tendered their closer and Finnegan, which everyone can have their opinion on that. I think they looked at the numbers and were like, he's not a closer on a contending team. Let's just cut it because he's going to make like $8 million. So I was like, okay, I get that. Especially if you're going to spend top dollars on a Fried. Okay, I get it.
Speaking of the Nationals, I am gonna drop two of my picks that I did have for the Nationals. I think we get Jack Flaherty signing with the Nationals because if you pair
Ooh,
Fried and Flaherty, that'd be like a nice 1-2 punch. They got lots of experience. They both Jack Flaherty just recently had a bounce back season. Fried could lead the charge. And I also think that we could see Pete Alonso with the Nationals too.
ooh. So I don't know if you know this, but Max Fried and Jack Flaherty went to high school together.
I did know that.
So like that would make a lot of sense too.
Mhm.
I actually would love like as a it's not my division, but I just like roster builds and team builds. I would love that if Flaherty because you got the righty, the lefty, they're both the same age. I think they're the same age.
And then you got the power hitter Pete Alonso in the middle of that lineup. You got James Wood, who's just coming into his own. Dylan Cruz, C.J. Abrams leading off. You got like your first four batters right there, and you got your 1-2 punch in the rotation.
So yeah, I guess yeah. Spoiler for one of my. I have Paul Goldschmidt going there because
Ooh,
he's
okay.
he's that he's not a vocal type of leader, but he's the guy that's going to be first to show up, last to leave. And with a lot of those young guys, the CJ Abrams issues with like off the field, he's going to be the guy that comes in there and is like, "This is how you're supposed to be as a professional.
Mm,
This is the amount of work you got to put in. You know, this is my bar. Either match it or exceed it." And like, it's one of those. It's going to be great for the clubhouse. Going to be great for the development of all those young players, and it's not going to cost you that much because he's going to be 37, and he didn't have a great year. He's not going to be the guy. He's not going to be your 3-4 hitter anymore. He could be your 2-spot guy. He could be your 6-hole hitter, depending on the development of the younger guys. Like, sign him to a 2-year deal. You get him for the clubhouse. I just think that makes too much sense not to. And if the team falls apart or the Mets or the Braves go crazy this offseason and are, 120-win teams, all right, then you trade him at the deadline and you get something for him. Like, that's seems like really smart GM move right there.
yeah, I like that too. I
Um,
like that too. I had him originally going back to the Diamondbacks, but I like yours with the Nationals too.
I
If
heard
he can somehow fit in Pete Alonso and Paul Goldschmidt in the same lineup, I would be all for that.
you honestly could too because they don't. I mean, I don't know whatever happened with the Meneses or whatever. He seemed to have fallen off fast, but like they don't really have a
Yeah,
DH guy.
he's just kind of somewhere. I don't.
Yeah, unless he fixes something or whatever. Like, I guess he's your DH, but I think at one point they even like threw him out in the corner just to get him some at
Yeah,
bats.
he's mostly like corner outfield too.
But yeah, like I think they ended the season with Juan Yepes as their like first base DH. So like you could fill out first base and DH between the two of them. It wouldn't matter.
Exactly.
Number 7, Anthony Santander. So gonna be 30. I think he had 40 plus home runs for the O's last year. Does have a
Yeah, he led
qualifying
the
offer.
No, he didn't lead the American League. I believe, he was second in home runs.
So great offensive numbers. Where do you have him going?
I want him to go to the Royals.
I could see
I'll be
that.
selfish. I want him to go to the Royals. Um, like we don't. I feel like it's been a long time since we've had a switch hitting bat on our team, and I think that would definitely benefit us to the point like where we could be more confident in our offense. We weren't confident at all in our offense at all against the Yankees in the division series, and that's where I want to improve the most. The pitching, I feel like the pitching is fine. I'm very cool with it. Even trading away Brady Singer, that hurt me, but it's fine. I've been dealing with it.
Hey,
Royals desperately need some bats who have that confidence, who have that swagger at the plate, who can get shit done, and who can be also like a clubhouse leader. So like I want Santander. And this is also a spoiler for later. I also want to see Gleyber Torres with the Royals. I want both of them to be there and just add a lot more depth to our offense, and just take us from there because we had no offense at all against the Yankees. The only reason we stayed in with the Yankees in the division series was because of the pitching.
yeah. I know we traded some text messages about the trade, but now that you've had, I guess, more time to chew on it, did you like the Singer for India trade or no?
I do like it, man. Well, I'm kind of like half half because I love Brady Singer. He's been my guy for a couple of years now. But it's gonna be good to see him be like at the top, one of the top spots over in Cincinnati. Jonathan India definitely adds some depth. He's a much better pick than Adam Frazier too, by the way. To have at second base if that's where we're gonna put him. If we don't end up with Gleyber Torres, I honestly don't hate it. It's definitely gonna take some getting used to, but I think Jonathan India could get the job done.
Because yeah, I was talking to Rich about this trade, and I love it for the Royals because you have your top 3 at this point is you have Reagans, Waka, Lugo. Like that's your top 3. So if Singer,
You kind of don't need Brady Singer.
yeah, so it's like if Singer's considered your number 4, like you can find number 4s in free agencies or whatever. And
Mhm.
you have to remember too that Kyle Wright, you have him and he's going to be back healthy. So you could always throw him as number 4 and be that Singer replacement. And then,
Exactly.
whoever else you want to have as your number 5s, that's not hard to fill. But your team desperately needs to improve the offense. So India, I love as your leadoff hitter. Especially I think it'll be even better if Witt's behind him. Like he's already kind of like puts the ball in play, doesn't strike out too much. Like his on base is good. He's not a great of a glove, but if you want to split in between second base and DH or whatever, that would be fine. Maybe you play some of the matchups or whatever and rotate some people in like the outfield or something. But I know initially I had Glaber going to the Royals, but then after that trade, I kind of took him out because I kind of feel like they're kind of the same profile of player. Like Glaber is going to have more power and more strikeouts, but like same where it's more they're like hit tool first and glove tool second.
Yeah.
But like initially I thought, yeah, that'd be a great spot for him. Santander there, I think would be great. Definitely need the offensive improvement. Throw him in a 3 or 4 spot, whatever. I think your GM and owner are willing to spend for players as well, so that makes a lot of sense.
Last off season too, like when we roped in like 6 or 7 different names to our team, like that really showed me that we're willing to spend money, and like I think we're going in the right direction, especially after the drop off of 2015, like losing a shit ton of players and just using whoever we had in our farm system instead of like signing people and trading for people. Like when we traded for Lucas Urseg at the trade deadline in July, like that was huge for us too. So it just shows that we're willing to make more moves.
I think the way the variables line up is the only reason why I think he won't go there, because I think he's going to be the number one target for all the teams that don't get Soto.
Yeah.
And
once Soto's gone, the market for Santander opens wide up.
So because of that, I think he's going to have to wait. So like if Soto signs at the winter break, that's not really that long of a break. It's open game for anybody. But if it happens to linger a little bit more, and then it's like, oh, we got the New Year's, Christmas, they take some time off there in the front offices as well. Starts to linger into mid-January, or I feel like there's going to be some team that makes a desperate play, and I think it's the Blue Jays that goes after Santander. And I feel like the Royals are more likely to be kind of like the Angels this year, where like they're going to target guys they want, they're going to offer them early, and then see if they accept it or not, so they kind of like define the price. And I think a player like Tyler O'Neill is who's going to be like, yep, works for me. Give me that, with his injury history, maybe they offer him a 3-year deal. Like, yep, okay, 3-year deal for, I don't know, 16 mil. Okay, yep, I'll do that. I'll go play left field and some center field for you as well. Like, and then there you go. You got a 30 home run guy that can play corner outfield, and I have to pay Soto money for him.
That's true, yeah.
And then like I listened to Buster. I would say only, but I think it's technically only. But I listen to I listen to Buster's podcast all the time, and he's got so many sources. And basically, what his sources had told him was that, sadly enough, the Blue Jays' reek of desperation was like the paraphrase quote. I think they're going to be the team that just way overpays for Santander after they strike out and don't get Soto. Like it's almost going to be like a reactionary, like we got to do something. We're going to lose Bo. We're going to lose Vlad. We got to get a slugger in there. Springer's getting older. Like we got to do something. And they're going to go after this guy, and then they're going to end up.
I'd be surprised if the Jays don't do anything.
Oh, they're going to do something, and it's probably going to be something that they're going to regret. But I think they're going to probably overpay for this guy, and that's going to be their big splash to start. That moves us to number 8, which is Pete Alonso. He does have the qualifying offer. But you said you believe he goes to the Nationals.
Yeah.
Okay. It would be interesting too, because he would stay in that division.
Especially if Soto's on the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
Go up against the Mets, his former team with Juan Soto, former National.
I think he'll wait, obviously, for everyone. I feel like at this point is wait on Soto. But in my world, Soto goes to the Mets. And unless Pete Alonso wants to somehow kind of do like a team-friendly deal, which I don't think he should, and he shouldn't have to, I think he's probably going to leave the Mets. The Mets have people basically in line too, so they can move Vientos over to first. Beatty will come back healthy and play third, so they don't need to sign Alonso. It's not a void that they don't have replacements for. I have him going to the Yankees because even though they would like to balance their lineup with more lefties, I feel like they've done too many years of let's get a veteran guy or whatever that we can plug in over there and hope it's enough. And then I feel like it always burns them. Like Rizzo was a nice addition that first or second year, but then it was injuries, concussions, blah, blah, blah. I think they ended up, the guy that got hot for a while was a backup catcher. So I think they're finally like, all right, we struck out. We didn't get Soto. Let's go out and get a slugger. Oh, who's over that's going to hit me 35 to 40 home runs and it's not going to cost me 30 million? Pete Alonso. So,
Okay.
and then since Soto and Pete Alonso both have qualifying offers, they kind of cancel each other out. So it wouldn't be that hard of a miss either. Number 9. This might be the most interesting one for me. Willie Adames. So, shortstop, good shortstop, but said he's willing to play third base for certain teams. Was traded to the Brewers from the Rays. I think he had a career year this year. I think he had like 32 home runs, 116 ribbies.
Something like that.
Something crazy. He went off. He's going to get paid. I have him going to the Dodgers. I know he's kind of not an outrageous pick.
I had him with the Dodgers too.
Yeah, it just makes a lot of sense. You know, the Dodgers, I don't feel like they want to move Mookie to second. We've proved that Gavin Lux is not a shortstop. He could be actually a guy that gets moved.
I think Gavin Lux probably gets moved to the offseason at some point.
Yeah.
I
think they would love. I mean, at this point right now, they don't really have an everyday shortstop. Like I think they re-signed.
They should have Blake Snell, and they already have Tyler Glass now. Just reunite some of the Rays guys.
It's kind of looking that way too, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
And that honestly, they might even help with like the pitch to recruit him. And like everything I've heard is Willie is an amazing clubhouse guy. Like the Dodgers are actually one of the teams that prioritize like good chemistry and good clubhouse guys. And
Freddie Freeman is the top guy in that category in MLB, in my opinion.
And him willing to move to third, I think that will also be like, oh, okay, so as he gets older, we can move him to third, no issues there. Like it's not an ego issue. Or if the matchup persisted, because I know the Dodgers sometimes like to move pieces around. Okay, we'll move him to third. Maybe you move against, what is it, lefties? Maybe we move him to third and Tommy plays shortstop for those games. Okay, that would make sense. He'd be cool with it. Because, like, I love Tommy out there, but I feel like they would prefer him to be their center fielder and platoon him a little bit and do their mismatch stuff with the outfield. Like, Willie Adames to Dodgers just makes a ton of sense. And, you know, if they don't get Soto and they don't get Sasaki or anything like that, this is their number one big splash dollar thing.
I like it. Plus, they got Snell already, too.
Yeah.
So they're adding good pieces, but not like super, super expensive pieces like Soto. But still very sneaky. It's sneaky good.
The interesting thing about Snell, too, is that didn't cost them any draft picks. So I know that's like a weird structure when you sign multiple people that have qualifying offers, but Snell doesn't have one. So Willie does have one, so they'd lose those draft picks, but they wouldn't lose any extra draft picks because of the Snell signing. Which actually moves us into number 10, which is Jack Flaherty. I have him returning to the Dodgers. It just seemed like the fit really worked out there. He's also a West Coast kid, and his mom's out there. He's really close with his mom because she basically like raised him by herself. Just seems like the Dodgers aren't afraid to pay him, and he was on a one-year deal when the Tigers signed him. They're always, even though they develop really well, it seems like they always seem to be short of arms. Now, when I made this pick, Snell hadn't signed yet, but as long as the money, like I could actually see him taking a team-friendly deal and being like, "Hey, if you'll give me 4 years, I'll sign for 15 mil or whatever because I want to win championships."
That would be surprising. Yeah, he'd have the best opportunity to win championships, like we saw in the postseason this past season.
I honestly think too that the organizations that sign the players from Japan or Korea and those leagues, whatever, they don't play as often, so it's actually better structured for those players to have 6-man rotations. So you have Yamamoto, you got Ohtani, you know, so if those are your, I guess, top two. You just signed Snell, you have Glasnow coming back. They have a couple other guys like Stone, other prospects, Bobby Miller, like they're there. But then if you sign Jack too, like, man, you got a solid rotation that you could go a 6-man rotation. And like they like to limit innings anyway, so it just, and Ohtani's a two-way player regardless. Like it just, they have the perfect setup to do a 6-man rotation.
They really do. They're loaded,
and they got the money to pay for it if they want to. So I have him returning to the Dodgers.
That's a fair take.
But the one guy I don't have returning to the Dodgers, which is number 11, Teoscar Hernandez, who does have a qualifying offer. Nick, where do you see him?
I really had no idea. This was kind of like a random one for me.
Well, I'll give you some info then. So he's going to be playing at age 32. He had basically a breakout. I don't say breakout, but like a career best season for the Dodgers. He was in the 4th spot most of the lineup. Had a great year, but I think the man's ready to get paid. He's going to be 32.
I originally thought the Marlins, like if the Marlins wanted to rebuild, I feel like having Teoscar Hernandez to build around would be like the perfect scenario. Um, but I thought maybe he would stay on the West Coast and maybe get a bag from the Diamondbacks.
I don't know if I could see the Diamondbacks because they have Uriel. That's basically that role for them. I can't remember who their DH was because I feel like they still have Suarez, which I think he might become more their DH if they want to
Yeah,
let
I think
Lawler
he
come up.
probably is going to move into more of that DH role.
So I don't know if, I mean, if they really wanted to upgrade their offense, they could because I think they're losing both. Like I think they platooned Jock and Grichuk as their DH last year, and
Yeah, Jock was a free agent
I
too.
think I think those guys are both gone. So like he could slide into that DH spot easy, and that could fit. I just feel like it's a lot of redundancy with Gurriel still there. So maybe the Diamondbacks are actually pretty good at like I feel like developing people. Although I don't know if they kind of have a redundancy as well in center with like McCarthy and Thomas. And then like if they really wanted to put Carroll in center, they could. So they're one of those teams I feel like they need to define what they are and who they are this offseason.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be put into like the spotlight this year for sure.
Because like they have a lot of talent, but it like like they signed Montgomery or whatever. That didn't work out. I think he said some stuff about ownership where he basically was like, "Get me the fuck out of here." So they got to deal with that issue as well. But they still have another year of Gallen. Brennan Spots or whatever his name is, he's good. Erod should be there for a full off season and training and all. So like they got a nice little rotation. They seem to do pretty good at like bullpen arms and like rebound whatever. I would love to see them bounce back and like make one big splash or whatever. But for me, it's just not Teoscar. It's just not Teoscar. I got Teoscar actually going to the Tigers. I feel like they're kind of in the Royal situation to me, where they have a couple, obviously the Cy Young. They have, a couple of their starters also got hurt, but like they have nice small group of starting pitchers. I'd like them to like basically do what the Royals did last year, where it's like go out and sign, your Walker, your Lugo, solidify that. Maybe they take a chance on, I don't know if I actually pulled the gun on this one, but maybe they do one of those where it's like, hey, Scherzer, you want to come back? 1-year deal. Hey, JV, you want to come back? 1-year deal. See what happens. And if they suck, they suck. It's a 1-year deal. But I think they need to sign a pitcher. But for me, the thing that struggled for them was they really didn't have a lot of offense either. So if you sign a guy like Teoscar and put him in left or DH him or whatever, like he's the solid presence that you can plug in there in the middle of your lineup to build around.
He's the presence that Javier Baez should have been.
I've never really believed in Javi's talent, but yes, in theory, yes, he can be your 3 or 4 guy that you build around, and Carpenter could be the 2 or 4 or whatever they want to do. But I think they're willing to spend money because they have so many young guys. I don't feel like they have any bad contracts.
Not anymore. They don't. Not anymore.
Yeah, the only like I guess downsell of that would be that it's Detroit, it's colder. The ballpark's a little bit bigger than LA, so like maybe your numbers wise, but like if they offer him a 4-year deal or a 5-year deal, hard to pass that down when you're 32. So
yeah,
but yeah, I have him going to the Tigers. Number 12, Tanner Scott, probably the top left-handed reliever at least, but arguably the top reliever on the market. Ended up getting traded over the Padres. Had a solid stretch down the run. Only gonna be 30 starting next year.
Just hitting his prime.
Yeah, really the only like if you look at his like baseball savant page, really his only downside that's not like elite status is that he does get prone to walks. So maybe he's still nasty. It's one of those. As long as you have a good manager that knows how to utilize him, like don't bring him in maybe when there's 2 runners on, because then if you walk somebody, okay, you're in a problem. But
yeah,
I have him just because everyone is gonna love this or love to hate this. I have him going to the Dodgers because they have Kopech as their righty, but I don't know who they really have. That's like I think they're losing Vesia. Gratterall's hurt, but he'll be back probably midway, I think. So why not add more riches to the Dodgers, solidify that bullpen with the lefty?
Yeah, I had Tanner Scott going to the Dodgers too, or re-signing with the Padres if the Padres really wanted to like retain one of their top closers down the stretch last year, to eventually make another run next year. But to your point, the Dodgers makes a ton of sense too because they definitely need the lefty action in the bullpen.
I just feel like the bullpen arms being so volatile and stuff like that, like not a lot of teams are gonna want to pay multiple years for a bullpen arm. But I feel like Dodgers have the money and they're like, we're win now, why not? So they'd be willing to pony up. That moves into number 13, Christian Walker. He is gonna be 34. Good bat, great glove. Does he leave the Diamondbacks? Where does he go, Nick?
I had re-signing.
Had him re-signing with the Diamondbacks?
Yeah.
I think if everything he likes out there and they're willing to offer him the money, because I don't really think they have a first baseman in waiting for him at all. And
I don't think so either.
he's such a good glove, like he makes your defense that much better. Really, for me, it just comes down to because he is getting older, the money. And so I have him going to the Mariners because I can't. This might be a halfway point number or whatever during the season, but I feel like they had really, really bad infield defense, even though they had talent. So if you throw Walker over there with his solid glove, not only does it improve that, but then like he also is kind of a slugger that's going to get you 25, 30 home runs, and their offense is so terrible.
Yeah, he can easily rake that out for sure.
Like I know the ballpark's pretty big, but like it fits both needs for them, both defensively and offensively.
He's got enough power to be able to pull it off.
And I think the Mariners are just desperate enough too that like if maybe teams are only willing to offer him like a 2-year deal, they might be like, oh no, we'll give you 3, maybe with a 4th-year option, which could be risky for an aging player, but with his glove, maybe you allow it. So I got him going to the Mariners.
See him getting like a 3-year, maybe 12 million offer.
Next one I got Nathan Eovaldi. Gonna be 35.
Okay.
Who you got?
I got him going to the Cubs.
Ooh, me too.
I got him going to the Cubs because I mean he's gonna be done soon. Like you said earlier, probably have like a 2 or 3-year deal. I mean it'd be nice for that veteran. It'd be nice to have that veteran presence over there, especially if they get Roki Sasaki too. And Nathan Eovaldi's had lots of fucking experience in his days in MLB. So like having that veteran presence with Sasaki, if your prediction goes as planned, if Sasaki goes to the Cubs, they also got Justin Steele. Like they could definitely benefit from Eovaldi.
I think it makes a lot of sense because like you have Steele, you have Imanaga, like you have good guys, but like if you can knock them down a peg, that's even dirtier. Like if you have those two and Eovaldi, that's a solid like 3-man rotation going to the playoffs. It's not like maybe he gets 2 years, like 21 mil. It's not going to break the bank. It's not going to ruin your international signing bonus. And it's a very, very winnable division with, the Brewers are losing Adames. Cardinals are taking a step back. Pirates are still developing. Reds, I do think the Reds might be a surprise team next year. I think, adding Francona as their coach is going to actually make a big difference. But it's a very winnable division. Sign him, and then you have your young guys that can come up and plug holes while they develop as well. I think, honestly, right now, I might have the Cubs either winning the division or winning the wild card. So, got him going there. All right, Sean Manaea. Who you got?
Sean Manaea, I had going to the Rangers.
Okay, I could be okay with that. He's got qualifying offer that he declined. He had so much success for the Mets, and I don't think they're going to be afraid to pay him. So I have him going back to the Mets.
He's got that veteran presence about himself too. He's a solid lefty. He had a good year with the Mets. I think he'd be able to lead that team, the Rangers, back not necessarily back to postseason talk or like contention, but like somewhere close to where they would like to be.
I didn't realize this until I kind of did more of a deep dive, but the Rangers have a ton, like $100 million coming off the books. Like they have money to spend.
Yeah, they could get him.
So they could easily afford him.
3 years?
Yeah, he's 33, so I don't think he gets like a 5-year deal or anything like that.
2 or 3 would be the sweet spot.
But I also could see him being one of honestly when I first made these picks, because initially when I did them literally like the 2nd of November. I had him accepting the qualifying offer. Well, then he declined it, and I was like, well, he might be one of those guys that lingers because teams might like him a lot, but they don't want to give up draft picks for him, and that's kind of why I'm like, maybe he accepts a 2-year deal with the Mets and just goes back. So it's kind of a playing the market and them not, protecting their draft picks a little too much. Shortstop, I'm going to say his name wrong. Hae-Sung Kim, the guy that was on the Padres. Glove first guy, but does not strike out and takes his walks. He's only going to be 29 as well.
I really like him. Ha-Seong Kim, he's a solid talent. I think I actually had him going to the Dodgers before the Willy Adames pick. But if our Willy Adames pick comes to fruition, I could see him re-signing with the Padres.
I think the Padres need him more than other teams need him.
Hmm.
But I have him going to the Giants. Buster Posey basically stated, I need to have a strong up the middle if I want to be a serious contender. Behind Adames, he's the best shortstop. I actually saw yesterday on MLB Network, he's the only other player besides Carlos Correa that's in the 80th percentile when it comes to, or above, in outs above average, I think walk percentage, and like contact rate or something like that. So he puts the ball in play, he doesn't strike out, and he's an amazing defender. He just has, to me, it just makes too much sense to have him for the Giants. The only issue there would be they do have, can't remember his name, but they do have a shortstop prospect that he would kind of block. But yeah,
Is it Marco
Luciano, yeah. And Chapman's at third, so it's like I think he got hurt like bad, like he was out for the year with like a knee injury or something. But it's like you could ease him into second base and then see what happens there. Like it just, if I'm a Giants guy, it's a good problem to have. So I have him going to the Giants, but I would not be opposed to him going back to the Padres at all.
Yeah, like you said, the Padres would need him more, so they would probably throw a bag at him.
Yeah. Carlos Estevez can be 32, got traded to the Padres, now a free agent.
Royals
would be nice. To me, because he's a reliever. These are the hardest ones to predict. But I went with the Yankees because right now I basically have them striking out of a lot of the guys and only signing Alonso, so they have money to spend. So the number one thing I feel like for them, the problem for them last year was bullpen, so they go out and get the top righty. So Carlos Estevez, Yankee. I kind of already spoiled this one. Paul Goldschmidt. Again, I don't think he's in anybody's top 20 or 25, but he's an interesting one to me. So I think you had him going back to the Diamondbacks, which I actually really like. I think that would.
I wouldn't be surprised, especially if he's going to retire.
Yeah, if he's only going to play another year or two, depending, it would be super nice for him to go back to the Diamondbacks and retire there.
Yeah.
As I already previously stated, I had him going to the Nationals. It's just clubhouse guy, lead by example. It would fit that team. He doesn't need to be the guy, but he can be the mentor role, and he still, they'll sign him for 2 years. They might even sign him for 3 years just because of that clubhouse presence. Who knows? But
I wouldn't be surprised.
But moving on, Shane Bieber. He is coming off an injury. I don't think he's going to pitch most of 2025, but I think he might be back by like July or August. I'm not sure on that timetable, but he's only going to be 30, so
yeah, he's still got lots of prime. I could have went back and forth with this, but if the Guardians want to continue to contend like they did last year, I think you got to keep Shane Bieber. He's got huge strikeout numbers. I think he can definitely lead the team. Like he's got that, I wouldn't say aura, but he just got that feeling about him.
Yeah, he for a while there, he was like the talk of the town, the ace. I know his numbers started trickling down a little bit, like his velo, but I think some people also say like maybe that was the start of his, because I think it was his elbow that he hurt. Yeah. They were like, well, maybe that was the start of he was fighting an injury and then he got hurt. So I think he's kind of going to have that same situation as Brandon Woodruff just had, where you knew you were going to lose him for a year, so he signs for like, I don't want to say the minimum, but signs for like $1 million for this year. But then he has the next year he makes like 20 million or 18 million, when he's fully healthy. And then maybe he also has incentive laced, or he has a opt out or an extension or whatever from there. But I think he goes back to the Guardians. Just he's familiar with them. He's injured. He's going to miss half of the year. He's probably familiar with the training staff. So goes back to them.
He's been known as the ace there for years too, and he won a Cy Young there. I find a lot of people forget about that.
Yeah.
But like with the young Guardian staff too, like I think it would be a benefit to keep him.
If The Guardians might get lucky too that if he does like them enough, maybe he takes a team-friendly extension, and they would
Yeah,
love that. Number 20, Gleyber Torres. I think you said the Royals, but
yeah, I'm gonna stick with that.
okay. He's a really hard pick for me because initially I had the Royals, then they traded for India, and then I was like, you know what I thought would be kind of a nice fit was if he went to the Brewers. But like
Mm.
but then I was like, but the Brewers also are very run prevention, like defense, and Glaber's not really that. He's more of a hit. Like they need
He's
offense.
at the defense.
So for me, this is almost like this team doesn't want him, this team doesn't want him, this team doesn't want him, and he kind of turns into the same Reese Hoskins deal. Like he's one of those like, all right, we'll sign you 2 years, we'll give you a shot, we'll play to your strengths, we'll platoon you, whatever. If you don't hit this pitcher well, that's when we sit you. But like you'll play like 75% of the starts, and we'll just we'll make sure you're in the lineup when Peralta and Woodruff are on the mound, so they can strike everybody else out. But when we have our ground ball guys, specialists, you're gonna be DH. Like I think they'll make it work. He won't be cost them an arm and a leg. So that was kind of the best fit I could come for him. But he's a really tough one for me to pick since the Royals went out and got India. So
Yeah, I would have liked Glaber instead of India because Glaber just has that bat with him. He's ass at defense, but if he has a good bat, you know what? I can overlook the shitty defense.
yeah,
Maybe.
it kind of
I'm saying that not like he's not even on the team, but like I'd probably get pissed off if I saw him bog some stuff.
yeah. He's just such a like he's only gonna be 28, so he's still got some time to develop. But he just whenever he had that moment with the Yankees where he basically was like, I'm not a third baseman, I'm a second baseman, and it was like, okay, so he's not. He's kind of about himself. Like I get it if you're expiring contract, you're not getting an extension, you got to worry about free agency. I get that, but it's like, man, you were going for a playoff run and stuff like that. You weren't willing to like DH or play third base. Like, I didn't like that. I feel like teams are going to be turned off by that.
Yeah, it rubbed me the wrong way too a little bit.
So, but okay, moving on. We got Tyler O'Neill.
This is where I didn't have any predictions here.
Okay, I said the Royals because I didn't have Santander going there. I know I think I already broke this down, but I just think it makes a lot of sense. And if they want to protect him, DH him a little bit. There's not a really good class of center fielders out there as well, so you might be able to play him out in center field a little bit, not wear him out, but like put him out there as well. So it's like slight improvements over there offensively. I think that makes a ton of sense, and I also think he'd be, like I said earlier, but he'd be willing to sign early and not wait for the market to set. So you might be able to get kind of a deal.
Yeah, that's true. Plus, yeah, he's got a lot of speed too, and he's fast, and he brings a lot of power too. I could definitely see that.
For
I could
his
definitely see that.
for his speed, and maybe this was just a team concept or whatever, he didn't steal much for the Red Sox at all. Like I think he had like 7 steals. But when like for us, I feel like Cardinals didn't really run much either, and he was injured a lot. I still feel like he always had double digits or like 15. So that felt weird. Like I feel like under the right system, he could be like a
The Royals
30.
are such a small ball team too. Like,
Yeah, I feel like for the Royals, he could easily be a 30-30 guy. 22, I had Yusef Kikuchi, but he actually signed with the Angels. He signed, I think it was a 3-year, like 63, 64. I think it was like making like 21 a year. Yeah, I was like, ooh, he got paid more than I thought he was going to get paid. So good for him. And again, Angels being aggressive, they're trying to, maybe not flirt with the top dollars, but they're making improvements. So I originally had him going to the Twins, just, Twins trying to add more of a reliable guy, not going to break the bank because, I feel like they've been reluctant to spend. I know the TV rights stuff has really kind of hurt them a lot, but glad that stuff's mostly settled now. Number 23, Clay Holmes, going to be 32. Kind of struggled with the Yankees down the stretch, lost his closer role. I think the Yankees are going to say, we'll move on. So I have him going to the Diamondbacks. I feel like they do a good job of, I don't want to necessarily say reclamation projects, but like they get the best out of these guys when no one else, I mean, other teams do like the Rays, but like they do a good job of adding good bullpen guys and making them great.
See that for Clay Holmes too, going to the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, I think it just fits, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Um,
they helped make a lot of bullpen guys' careers too. They helped guys bounce back, and I think that's what Clay Holmes needs.
and at the very least, if they're not going to compete or whatever, he would be such an easy guy to trade or move at the deadline. Number 24 for me is Max Scherzer. I have him going to the Padres. What about you? Honestly, he could fall for just about any team because he could be a 1 year bounce back, prove it. But I had him go to the Padres just because, like, the one thing that they had issues with in the last offseason was, man, where are they going to get the starting pitchers? They lost half their staff or whatever, and then they made a trade and kind of piecemealed stuff. Scherzer's going to want to be on a contender. The team's not probably going to offer him the 40, I don't know what he's going to get, honestly. Maybe 20 mil a year. So it's not crazy amount, but like he's going to want to be on a contending team that is actually trying to be a World Series and not just make it for the money. So I think the Padres are one of those teams.
I think the Yankees.
I thought about the Yankees too. I think when I broke it down, I was trying to figure out what their lineup was, and it was they still have Cole. Gil broke out. Still got Rodon. What's the other lefty they had? Funky guy.
Nestor?
They still have Nestor. And I think they had one more guy where I was like, well, that's kind of their five right there. So unless somebody got hurt and Scherzer like lingers out there for too long, I was like, so I kind of ruled him out because of that. Because I was like, well, do you sign Scherzer to be your 4 or 5? If you have other guys in your system, I don't know.
He'd be a damn good 4-5.
Damn right. Yeah, sign him as a 4 or 5, and then they could play up to a 2 in the postseason. That's why he's super hard. He could go anywhere, but I went with the Padres. Yankees, I get it. Honestly, he could go just about anywhere except I think the only team I'd probably rule him out would be like the Mariners unless they make a trade just because they're already locked and loaded there. 25, we got Jerkson Profar. I just have him return to the Padres. He works there. He fits there. He's not going to cost you anything crazy. I also feel like the Padres would be a very goodwill team of like, hey, man, you've basically been playing for the minimum the last couple of years, and you've been an all-star this last year. Like, all right, let's pay you.
Plus, he's a switch hitter. He can play anywhere. He can do anything you ask him to do.
I thought he was better at this than he is. He's not a great defender. He can play it. I think they kind of settled him down in left field, so he'll probably stay there. My one thing that I was thinking about for when we were talking about Kim being their shortstop, Jackson, and this is kind of funny and this is kind of the joke how basically their entire team was shortstops. Jackson Merrill could become their shortstop next year, and I would not be shocked. I don't think that's a hot take, but that was something that I was like, well, I don't want to move Bogarts to shortstop. He's not a good glove. We all kind of knew that. We're happy that he moved to second. Manny's not moving off third. First base, they kind of put Arias there. Some people have talked to he might be a trade guy. Whatever. Tatis out in right field was, I think, a gold glover. He's fine there. Profar, I think you got to keep him left. He's solid there. Leave him alone. Let him hit. So then that would leave them with center field, which I don't remember who's in their system right now, but like I was trying to think of good like center field trade things compared to like shortstops. Like, would it be more worthwhile to, keep Maryland center field or not? But I guess that's a writing article for later. But I have Profar, I guess, to bring it back, returning, and he's going to play left field because I think Merrill eventually plays shortstop.
I think that makes sense for Profar too.
All right, here's one of the guys that I would love to sign, but I know we won't. Walker Buehler.
The Cardinals.
I would love that, but it's not going to happen. With his injury history and like in 2025, it'll be year 2 of him coming back, I think, from Tommy John. So that's typically when they kind of like get back in their groove. I guess he did kind of have a solid stretch down the postseason, so that probably upped his dollar amount. But I was like, man, he's a pillow contract waiting to happen where, it's incentive laced or he only accepts a 1-year deal, which is like perfect for a contender that needs an arm or somebody that needs an arm but doesn't have the money to spend. I have him going to the Braves, and he would do amazing there. And they need I think 2 arms because they're losing Freed and they're likely losing Morton.
Okay. I was gonna say the Cubs.
I could totally see him a Cub, which would suck because I'm a big Walker Buehler fan. I would be better about that. But okay, Jock Peterson, which I initially had him going to the Yankees until I realized he did not play a single inning last year in the field. He only DH'd. And I was like, he can't go to the
Really?
Yankees then because Stanton basically hogs that spot.
Yeah. Stanton doesn't play the field.
So I have him going to the Rangers, and I actually love that if they would do that.
Okay. I can get behind that as well. I could see the Rangers or maybe the Reds. If the Reds want to make a splash for a big lefty bat, I think they could go for him.
I could see him a red because I feel like at this point I feel bad for him in a sense because like every year he gets a 1 year deal and then he's a free agent next year. So like every year it's like prove it, prove it. That I think he's kind of accepted that like okay, I'm a DH that crushes righties and you platoon me. I'm not gonna face lefties, just face me righties and let me get paid. So I was gonna give him like a 2 or 3 year deal with the Rangers at like 15 mil or something like that, or like 16 and a half. I don't really know what his market value is, but I just hope he gets a multi-year deal. It's kind of like Snell, but on a lesser extent, where it's like, dude,
Yeah.
just give this guy a contract so he can get a home.
It always seems like Jock is just floating from place to place.
Like he was a guy that's like literally for like the last 3 years been like, man, Cardinals, go out and get him, put him as your DH. He's gonna murder righties, and we need that. And it's like, and then he signs a contract to the Diamondbacks, and it's under the radar, and he has another good year, and nobody talks about him. Wait, what was your other team?
The Reds.
I'm trying to break down their team because I was like, I think they used that Stevenson because he had injuries at the DH spot. So I'm like, they kind of have a DH spot open because like, India I know was there as well, but he's off the books now. So that would make sense, especially in that hitter's ballpark. Man, he would thrive there. That's where I'm like, I like it and I hate it because it's a red and it's my division. So it makes sense, but it hurts me.
Walker Buehler on the Cubs. John
Yeah.
Peterson on the Reds.
How
you feeling, Coach?
You're just here to hurt me, it feels like. All right, speaking of another NL Central legend at one point, Anthony Rizzo, going to be age 35. I think the Yankees are going to finally let him walk and do his thing. I have him going to the West Coast. He's going to be a Giant.
Yeah, I could see that too. Yeah.
I think part of the problem why I think it was Zadier's, I can't remember what his name was, but he was like part of that Rays umbrella of guys that came out, became the GM for the Giants. He got too in love with the platoons and the matchups and never could sign any stars. And I think that's what they realized. And I think Buster is going to have a lot better job of recruiting free agents. And Rizzo wouldn't be that hard either because it's like, hey man, great weather. We're willing to spend. We want to spend. We want to, whatever. We have some young guys that have talent. Come here. You love playing the game. Be our first baseman. DH a little bit. We'll see what we can get out of you. I don't know what his splits are at this point. Maybe he's a platoon at this point in his career, but it wouldn't cost him a lot of money. And it would just, I mean, in my world, if you're also getting, well, I had him getting Blake Snell, so that was the top dollar. That didn't happen. But if you get Kim and you get Rizzo, you got Chapman at third base, I don't know what they want to end up with their like catcher outfield, but like the one free agent that they had that was I think Korean or Japan League basically was hurt all last year. He was supposed to be their center fielder, and then
Jung Ho Lee.
Yes, he's supposed to be their center fielder, and I think it was Ramos or whatever that ended up being. It was Ramos. The young,
Julio Ramos.
Like if you move him to a corner spot, he was I think their one All-Star or whatever. Like he had a good year. Their team's starting to look a lot better. So it's not like sexy, but it's like upgrade here, upgrade there. Defense is looking stronger.
Still upgrades. You don't want to just. I mean, you could just use a bunch of money and just buy a bunch of players, but I feel like building up your team to what I think it could be is much more satisfying.
Yeah, it's kind of like how we were saying with Soto with the Yankees. It's like, well, you get one guy that's a star. Or you could utilize that money and get upgrades on 5 different spots, maybe
Just
some
like
depth here. Like I would be very happy with the Giants if they had some type because they actually they still got Webb as their ace, and they actually do have some like young pitchers that are kind of coming. So if they could sign one more starter and then Rizzo here, Kim there, maybe go out and get a corner outfielder as well. Like I'm kind of liking your team to be like. I don't know if they're
Robbie Ray too, don't they?
They what?
They still got Robbie Ray.
Do they have Robbie Ray? I think they do.
Yeah, I think they probably
Yeah,
do.
because I feel like they had a number 3 or something that I liked. So it's like
We kind
they
of
got a
forgot
nice
about him.
they got a nice team. If Doval or whatever can get his head out of his ass and whatever
Yeah. Oh.
they still got the Rogers brothers in the bullpen. Like they got a nice little team. They just need a little bit more, and they can be contenders again. Number 29 was Nick Martinez. He had a qualifying offer. I assumed he was going to accept a qualifying offer, and he did. So he went back to the Reds. And then the last name on the list is Nick Pivetta, who also had a qualifying offer with the Red Sox. He did decline it though, but
Okay.
which I was kind of shocked by because I don't know. I think the qualifying offer this year is like 21.5 or something, which is pretty damn high. I don't know if he makes that, but regardless, I still kind of kept him with the Red Sox. I just feel like he had success. They're going to want to add depth. Even if they add Burns, like if you re-sign Pivetta, you basically have your rotation in line, and it's pretty solid. With the qualifying offer, I think that's going to scare off some other people because, some might view him as a 3, some might view him as a 5. Like, you don't lose draft picks for...
Depending on where he goes, he could be, like, if he went to the Marlins, he could be a number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all depends. It all depends on where he signs, really.
But like for me,
he can eat up some innings.
For me, you don't give up a draft pick for a 3, 4, or 5. Like
Yeah, no,
unless you have a completely studly farm system and you're one piece away from winning it all, you don't give up draft picks for a 4 or 5. So I think the Red Sox have shown by offering him that they really want him, and they're, I don't want to say desperate, but like they want pitching this offseason. So I think he'll return and get the multi-year deal that he wants.
Makes sense, yeah.
Okay, well, that is our top 30 player predictions for the free agency. I did have a couple of names that I briefly wanted to go over that I thought were interesting. My favorite non-tendered free agent, Patrick Sandoval. Now, I know he got hurt, and I think he's likely to miss all of 2025, or at least majority of it. But again, this is kind of one of those Brandon Woodruff contracts. And if you're a team that is looking to build towards the future, you might get a deal, maybe like cheap this year or 2026, reasonable, and then maybe you get him a third-year incentive laced or whatever. I would love for him to go to the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think he'd be a good fit too.
Or any like rebounding, retooling team that wants to compete by 2026, 2027. I would love to sign this guy because I think it was when he was in the World Baseball Classic, dude. He was shoving. He was looking dirty. And I was like, man, he's about to break out with the Angels. And then it was like, never heard from him. What happened? Well, he got hurt.
Yeah, because he was on Team Mexico, wasn't he?
I think so. I think it was
Yeah, and Mexico was having a good run too in the World Baseball Classic.
I feel like it was one of those teams where we weren't expecting a lot, and then they actually had a deep run. Another name for me, the Jordan Romano with the Blue Jays was a little bit of a shocker. But then again, I think his arbitration was like in the $8 million. So I was like, if they're trying to like cut money here and there to go after Soto, I guess that makes sense. But at the same time, it was like, all right, guys, we got a new righty out there that's proven some success as closer experience. Man, you add him to any, the Royals, that's a nice addition, man. He's a name I'm interested in.
I want a couple of guys this season. That's it. Even if it's just 2, I'd be fine with it.
Another name, I kind of briefly mentioned Kyle Finnegan. The Nats let him go. He'd been their closer for like the last 2 years, but I didn't do a deep dive into his baseball analytics, but just reading up on it a little bit. Kind of seems like he overperformed. Like I think his FIP was like 4.5 and stuff like that over the last couple of years, and his strikeout percentage was like below average. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. But at the same time, there's a lot of teams that you add a player like that who maybe he doesn't have the best stuff, but you put him in your little pitch lab, maybe he adds a cutter or a sinker, and suddenly it's like, whoop, you got yourself a lockdown 7th inning, 8th inning setup guy.
You mentioned the pitch lab. Rays.
Yeah, I think he would be a great fit for the Rays. And then I guess the last name I'll say for now is Austin Hayes. So he was a part of that Phillies-Orioles swap.
Wow.
Yeah, so when he got over to the Phillies, I think initially he struggled, and then he had like a really bad like kidney infection that he basically was out for the year. And I think he was still under team control for another year, maybe 2 years. I can't remember what. I know he's in arbitration at this point. But I think the Phillies again were like, I don't know if they ended up being one of the top 5 for Soto, but if they go after Bregman or whatever, I think this was another one of those, hey, let's trim the corners of payroll and see if we can get a nice shiny piece. So, but he's going to be an interesting guy out there to sign for somebody. And he's not like, I feel like if he's a platoon guy or if he's a regular guy, I feel like he's going to overperform whatever dollar amount he's going to get in free agency because of.
Yeah, he wouldn't be too expensive either.
So I'm very interested to see where he goes. The other names, I'm not going to break these down, but I put them on the list. Griffin Canning, just because he was just traded and then let go. Oscar Unoa, I'm probably saying that wrong, just because he had a really good year with the Braves, then got hurt, I think, and then nothing from him. Hobner Milner on the Brewers, seen him pitch a couple of times. I think he's going to be one of those guys that somebody repackages him somehow and he's going to be filthy.
I think the Rays, because I like Milner too.
Adbert Azalea, I thought at one point he was going to be a setup or a closer for the Cubs. They let him go. Again, they have a lot of prospects, so I think they're cleaning up their 40-man. But somebody I think is going to take him. Brent Honeywell, an X-Ray. It's kind of weird that the Dodgers kind of gave up on him, but I think he's like 28 now, 29, so he's not a young buck anymore. The last two, which I'm not really shocked at this point because the Rockies don't know what the hell they're doing. Brendan Rodgers got non-tendered, and then Cal Quantrill, which Cal Quantrill, again, he could be one of your 4 or 5s that you don't pay too much for. Could be interesting. Brendan Rodgers, you can say what you want to say. Maybe he never lived up to his top 100 prospect. I don't think his defense is very good either. I don't think he hit.
I've seen a lot of botch videos.
Yeah.
Compilations, like, oh.
So I hope he's. I was a fan of him when he was in the minors. I hope somebody takes a chance on him and he turns his career around, because I would hate for him to get that Tim Anderson treatment where he just completely falls off the table and never gets it back.
Tim Anderson too.
He's been so bad like the last 2 years that I think he's out of the game. He's going to have to go to Japan or reinvent himself or something. Hopefully Rodgers doesn't fall down that. But those were our top 30 free agents, a couple of non-tenders that I think are of interest, and hopefully we get some signings here by the next couple of weeks with the baseball winter meetings here. And then I think once Soto falls, hopefully during that period, it's going to come hot and heavy, and it's going to be fun.